Okay, my friends, let's talk more fountains. Are you wondering what you don't know about fountain design that will become a turd in the punch bowl for you after the fact? Do you want to learn a few things that will help you avoid making some of the most common mistakes that we see out in the field? In this video, I will share some ideas that will help you understand some of the things you need to know in order to design a properly functioning, low maintenance fountain that you can enjoy for years to come. By the end, you'll have some solid knowledge that will help you avoid crazy expectations and poor results with your fountainscape project. First, I would like to discuss the relationship to fountain height versus splash zone. So many times I've seen a fountainscape that splashed way too much for the basin that it was built on top of. Trying to save money on the subgrade part of your fountain is great, but only to a point. First, I want you to understand this is a guideline, not a rule, that I'm about to share with you. Feel free to apply your common sense along the way. Are you ready for this? If you push more water through the fountain, the splash zone grows bigger. If you push less water through the fountain, the splash zone shrinks. Here's my tip, rule of thumb, call it what you will. The high flow rule is the water splashes 1.5 times as far out as it falls in each direction. My low flow rule is the water splashes half as far out as it falls. So let's do an example. For a 2-foot fountainscape with high flow, it could splash 3 feet out in each direction to create a 6-foot splash zone. Or the same 2-foot fountain with the low flow could splash out 1 foot in each direction and only have a 2-foot splash zone. This is important information because the size of your basin determines what you are catching into your recirculation system and what you are losing beyond the edges of your reservoir. Don't underdesign. Also note that the size of the hole in your fountain and the amount of water that you push affect the velocity of the water, which makes it shoot higher. So you can make a bigger hole to slow the water down to decrease the splash zone. A smaller hole will speed the water up and increase the splash zone. The next thing I want you guys to consider is that with decreasing flow rates, the beauty or visual impact of the fountain piece itself becomes more and more important because you can see more of it than you can see of water. So consider these things when choosing a low flow fountain. Make sure it's nice to look at without water running over it. And then cool shapes, ridges, ripples, sharp edges, etc. will make the water dance and increase the sound that you get from a lower flow situation. This water action also creates amazing effects at night and often makes the little splashes of water look like sparks. This is awesome. Also noteworthy, water sticks to smooth objects, especially at low flows. So a smooth urn with a low flow may only look wet and it may not express flowing water or make much sound at all. Now let's talk about the effects of splash for a minute because it can become a problem if it's excessive. In the surrounding landscape, certain plants like to stay wet and some don't. And depending on what you're adding to your fountain for products to keep it clean, these products may not be plant friendly. So be careful, guys, not to kill your landscaping. You'll also want to not allow excessive splash to create safety issues on walkways or to splash onto unwanted objects like your house. So just be aware, areas that stay wet can grow moss and algae and they can get quite slippery. Another thing that folks often don't think about in their design is the available water versus the actual usable water in the basin. Your pump will only function properly when it has enough water that can easily get into the inlet of the pump. Once the water level in the basin drops low enough, the suction from the pump creates a tiny little air tornado going in. This is called cavitation. Not only does it make a very annoying, unwanted suction sound, but it's a sure sign that your water level has dropped below your minimum operating level. If your pump is sitting on the bottom of a flat basin and it starts to cavitate when the basin is still half full, you really only have half of your basin as usable water. If you're going with the tub style basin, make sure that you choose a low suction intake for your pump to increase your usable water volume. In our custom modular reservoir systems, this isn't even an issue because the pump vault used in these systems allows the pump to be positioned below the rest of the bottom of the basin, so that entire volume of water becomes usable. Let's talk about frequency and filling since that relates directly to what we just learned about usable water. If you have a 100-gallon basin and your pump starts to cavitate at that halfway to empty mark, you really only have 50 gallons of usable water before you got to fill her up. So if you don't have a lot of splash outside of the basin, that amount of water might last you a week. If you do have a lot of splash outside the basin, you might have to fill your fountain every day or even more often than that. Hopefully you're picking up what I'm throwing down, guys. Nobody's got time for that. Next, let's talk ease of pump maintenance. I won't go into all the whys because it's boring gibberish, but there's several things in your design that will impact how often you need to get access to your pump for simple cleaning and maintenance. This should be a super easy task. Your basin and fountain design will dictate how easy this task is or is not. I've seen concrete fountains that had to literally be taken apart to access the pump. This is crazy. It's a lot of work and it's expensive to maintain. Make sure your design allows for easy servicing. The last thing I want to talk to you guys about is the size and weight of your chosen fountain. Prefabricated basins have weight limits and you don't want to push them. They'll start to cave in. Large, heavy fountains need properly designed custom basins. Top-heavy items need to be properly secured so they don't just fall over. Guys, unless you're very knowledgeable when it comes to construction, I suggest leaving the larger, more complicated projects to a proven professional, or at least get some consulting from somebody to tell you the right way to do what you're doing. I've got a video on selecting the proper contractor for your water feature project, and I suggest you watch it so you don't end up a victim. These are all important considerations when designing your fountain project. Hopefully we're solidifying your understanding of this process and leading you guys to the finish line. In the next video in this series, I'm going to talk about fountain costs and options. That should take you across the finish line of understanding all but the most complicated of designs. I'm John G. with Modern Design Aquascaping, and our team builds world-class ponds, fountains, and waterfalls. I really appreciate you spending a little time with the Adams family. Do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, and remember to hit the bell if you want to be notified immediately when we put out new content to educate and inspire the world about ponds and water features. John G. out.